Hey there guys, starting a new project tonight. This is going to be a stained and painted sign. So these are the materials right here that I'm going to be working with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stain this piece of cedar and then put down my vinyl numbers and seal those, spray paint it, pull the vinyl numbers off, and then put a nice clear coat of polyurethane on it. So I'll go ahead and flash up a picture here of what that's going to look like at the very end. And let's go ahead and get started on this project. The first thing we're going to do is sand down this board a little bit, and so that we've got a good smooth surface to work with. So let's go ahead and do that. Going to go ahead and hit this with a 60 grit, and then we'll come after that with a 120. No power. My battery died while I was doing the sanding, so I sanded it with the 160 like I said, around the edges a little bit. Little divot right here, got that sanded up good. And then all I had was 150. I know I said I was going to use 120 after the 60, but I hit it with the 150, nice and soft. So now we're going to put on our first coat of stain. When I put my vinyl letters on, I'm going to letter from left to right because I like this side of the board better. So we need to get on our coat of stain. Once that dries, we will lay out all of our letters on here, and then we will put some poly on the letters to seal them in, and then we'll spray paint it, and then we will peel the letters off, and then we'll poly it. So let's get our stain on. We're going to use a Minwax Early American penetrating stain. I'm just going to go up and down a couple times here with it. Alrighty, here we go. These are just some old cabinet doors that I had in the garage that I'm using underneath these to catch any of my drippings. They'll be going to the landfill this weekend, so no need to save them. I'm going to try to get this coat on as evenly as possible. Let it sit for a few minutes, and then we'll wipe off all the excess. So for now we're just going to get it soaked on there. Let the wood start soaking this up. Alrighty, I have not wiped any off yet, but quite a bit is soaked in, so I'm going to go ahead and put on a second layer here. And the second layer is mainly just for the top. I probably won't hit the sides again. Alrighty, I'm going to let this sit here for 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever I feel like, and then we'll be back to wipe this down with a rag. Alrighty, it's been about 5 minutes and I don't want it to get a whole lot darker than that, so now I'm going to come in with this rag and wipe off all the excess. As you can see, there's a lot on there that has to come off, so that's why you do this step. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit and dry tonight, and then tomorrow I will come back in, use my ruler, and lay out all of my vinyl letters, and put them in place, and keep on moving. So, just a second. It is now morning time, about 6 a.m. I'm going to get my numbers down here before I go into work today, and then I can paint tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and put my first number on and see how well that works. I don't remember if I've told you what exactly this is yet. These are the coordinates in decimal degrees where I got married, and then I'm going to put my last name up here. Never mind, guys, that's not going to work. I didn't realize what these were when I bought them. I thought that I could peel off the individual number, but I can't. It's all one big sticker. Dang it. Okay. Now what? Alright, back to the drawing board. I'll be back. Take 2. 12 hours later, I've got what I believe to be what I wanted in the first place. So I'm going to get out the screenshot that I took of the numbers that I'm going to lay out, and I'm finally going to start laying those out. Alrighty. We're going to start with 33. So I'm using the 2-inch letters number pack for the numbers, and then I'll put the name in the 3-inch. So I need one 2-inch pack right now. I bought way more than I actually need. And what I did here, I drew a line on this board that is 1 1/4 inches from the bottom. The top numbers will be 1 1/4 inches from the top, and that's also going to leave 1 1/4 inches between them. So you got to be careful when you're drawing this line, because you don't want to put too much of an indentation into this board, because that'll show when you paint it, which I'm already worried about. Anyway, let's find our numbers. 33, okay. Very careful when you peel these off. You want to have nice sharp edges. Kind of a speak now or forever hold your peace type of deal, because this is your chance to fix something if you don't like it. But I like it. These vinyl letters and numbers do not stick very well to this wood, so that's why it's going to be important to get a good layer of this polyurethane over top of this stuff. So what that's going to do is it's going to completely seal it, so that when we come in and spray paint this, it's not going to bleed underneath of those characters. And then what we'll do is we'll come in with some tweezers. Once the polyurethane's all dry, peel all these vinyl numbers out of here, and then put a coat of poly over top of the whole thing. So it'll all blend together, and all this will look nice and crisp. Let's go ahead and do the poly. I'm just using a 3-inch foam brush here. I start up here with some of the bigger stuff. It's most important to get around these edges. Make sure to get in the middle of your letters and your numbers as well. Some bubbles coming up around them, and that's because there's air underneath of them, and that air is forcing its way out, so that's good. And guys, I have no idea if this is going to work or not. I've never seen someone do this, so maybe if you see in this video, I guess it worked. When I see bubbles start popping up, I push down on these goods so that I know we're going to get a nice good seal. Alrighty, now down to the numbers already. Alright guys, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and put a coat of poly over this whole thing, because the last thing that I want is for me to go in and paint this, and then where there's poly underneath of it, it dries differently. So I want it all to be one nice layer. So I'm going to poly this whole board right now. The paint should stick to the poly without any problem, as long as you let it dry long enough. I kind of like it with just the numbers on there. Poly those right into the finish, because I really like the grain of this wood. And I'm going to cut the board down here when I know exactly where I need to do it, so I'm not worried about getting poly all the way down. There it is. I'm not sure how long this is supposed to take to dry. Let's see. Oh, this is the fast drying poly. That's nice. Clear oil base, durable. Directions. Let dry 3 to 4 hours. Okay. What time is it? 6:30 p.m. So between 9:30 and 10:30 tonight. I'm gonna let it sit for that few hours and come back and see what it looks like. Alright guys, I'm back. I came out here and started playing with this thing a little bit. I was worried about these marks that I made with my pencil. So I sanded them down a little bit with some, oh, what the heck is this? I think it's 150 grit. And I'm going to go ahead and put a second coat of poly over this whole thing because it's not going to hurt anything. So I need to clean this up a little bit first. So I sanded right through the stain right here, as you can see. But as long as I get a coat of poly over top of it, when I spray paint this, you'll never be able to tell. Curious as to how well these vinyl numbers will come off with 2 coats of poly behind them or around them. Definitely don't want to do any more than that because then that will really make them down in there pretty far. Alrighty, we're going to let that coat dry overnight, and then hopefully tomorrow we can do our painting. So with that, we will be using just some Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch paint and primer in 1 spray paint. Hey guys, I'm back. This has been sitting for about 2 days, so this poly is nice and dry now. What I'm going to do now is cut off whatever we don't need down here. So let's take our measurement. We are 3 1/8. So we're going to do the same thing down here. Here's my pencil. 3 1/8-ish. Let's see here. So that mark is at 24 inches. So 24 marked there. Make a cut line. Alright, let's go ahead and cut this board. Sawdust off. Grab a fresh cloth here. Gotta have a good surface here for the paint to stick to. Let's go ahead and move this down onto the ground where we're going to paint it. I'm going to bring a tack cloth with me to help clean this up. Alrighty, I'm going to hit it once more here with the tack cloth. Make sure we've got everything off of here so that the paint will stick how we want it to. Hopefully this color here will give me enough contrast against this stain that these numbers pop out good once we peel them off. So. Alrighty, here we go. Make sure you're holding your spray paint back at least 12 inches. Not all the way on the top there, now I'm going to get around the edges. So you can see I'm doing about 3 passes. A little bit extra here on the end. This end here is the freshly cut end, so I want to make sure to get a good coat on that. I'm going to let this sit. It says here on the can, dries to the touch in 20 minutes, handle in 1 hour, fully dried in 23 hours. It says apply 2 or more coats a few minutes apart. So that's what I'm going to do. I can really see this line here for the mark that I made to get these straight. That's one thing that I'm noticing already. It's been 2 or 3 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the top with another coat. Alrighty, I think that's all it's going to need. We are going to give that 24 hours to dry now. Then tomorrow at this time we will try to start peeling those letters off and see what happens. Rough it up a little bit with some sandpaper, and then we'll put our final coat of poly on it and it should be done. We'll see how that process goes. Alrighty, so it is actually working. I got a little bit excited. Started taking the first couple digits off here. I'm just using a regular pair of tweezers, and I'm very carefully getting up under the corner of these, trying not to and then just grabbing hold of it. Once I've got it up, I switch to using my hand. Be very careful, especially at the end. Let it follow right where it wants to go. So here is the sign with all of the letters and numbers pulled off of it. I think all in all, it turned out really well. They all came off well. There's a few little things. Just like any project goes though, there's going to be a lot of little things on it that only I notice. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. These vinyl characters had some sticky stuff on the back of them that I wasn't really expecting. There's a little bit of residue there. But we'll see what happens when we put a coat of poly over that. how exactly that covers up. So next steps here, I'm going to take some sandpaper, probably rough it up around the edges a little bit, and then put at least one good coat of poly on here. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and rough this thing up with some sandpaper before we put our last coat of poly on it. Alrighty, it is now time to get the last coat of poly on here. I roughed up around the edges pretty well with a combination of an 80 grit and 150 grit. I don't like how it scratched up the surface here a little bit, so I tried to come in and kind of blend it a little bit, kind of match it on both ends so that if it is still, if you can still see it pretty well, once the poly's down there, at least it gives it a little bit of an aged look. But let's put the poly on here and see what happens. Okay guys, this is already going on much better than I thought it would. It's really getting rid of those marks that I had from the sandpaper, and it really aged this nicely. I would highly recommend beating up the corners of this with some sandpaper. It's covering up the letters really nice. I was really worried about that adhesive that was on the back of those vinyl letters, because you could kind of see it down in here and it was kind of white and it just didn't look very good, but I think it's really going to pop now. Make sure to get the sides of this. These edges here where I exposed the wood is really taking the poly nicely. Here is the final clip of the sign that I made. Turned out really well. It looks really good after that last coat of poly that I put on it. All the edges cleaned up really nicely. I'm really glad that I sanded those and roughed them up a little bit. So I would definitely recommend that to anyone that's considering doing this project. I want to go ahead and thank you guys for watching this video. Please rate, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you're building one and how it went for you. If you have any questions on the process on mine, and go ahead and please subscribe to this channel for more things that I'm doing around the house. So thanks for tuning in.